millet garip gelmiyor mu? Yok, ben artık Siyok'um. İsmim Siyok oldu yani. Senin ile Siyok arasında bir fark yok yani.
I imagine you and your coach were immediately going into a deep conversation about what's going on. Why
İşte
are
başta bir
you
iyileştirici ruh ne alaka ya? Ben onu anlamadım.
yeah, long to get moving if he is holding three musketeers. They get more value the more elixir you got going on. The Skelly Drags support that idea. Stars and Bridge just to feel things out a little bit here for Adriel. Recruits, might be recruits pigs. Yeah, I mean honestly, when I saw the Skeleton Dragons come out, I was thinking it could be recruits. Could be recruits pigs, and then yesterday we saw recruits Ram Rider, which was actually pretty effective. But that would be so stupid, Rich. It's recruits Royal Giant, of course. Obviously, how did you not know that was what was happening? Oh, I don't envy us most of the time, but E-Wiz and an Execution are going to do some damage there on the right-hand side, or excuse me, clean up some of that damage on the right-hand side, as this Ram Rider connects well on that Princess Tower, and the MK comes in too. This is tough stuff, man. Stays alive on that left-hand tower, just barely gets the King Tower activation. And at what cost, my friend? At what cost? Yeah, that should be the Clash Royale documentary title. And Evo Mega Knight coming into this Evo RG. Never what you want to see as EGW. You can see the look on his face knowing that his monthly finals run has most likely come to an end. 122 HP, there's the lightning, and Adriel stays alive and keeps things going in the lower bracket. But what a great showing for EGW. And, you know, this is when you talk about getting creative with deck picks. This is the challenge, right? This is what you gotta figure out is you can be creative, you can do stuff that's unexpected, but what's the intention, right? So I'd love to have a conversation about EGW, or if he's working with a coach, I don't know if he does, of what was the intention behind this deck? What were you expecting out of Adriel in this moment? Obviously, you know, the recruits, they create a lot of pressure on both sides. They distract. You know, they were really big when Fisherman was everywhere. Fisherman's not everywhere. Yeah. So what's the idea behind this? Obviously, the Heal Spirit hoping to reinvigorate the push and let it get a second life. Then you run into Evo MK and Evo Executioner, and you go, oh, well, everything I thought was wrong and bad.
And are you good with this deck? That's the other part of it, right? It's not just the matchup. It's how many times have you played this deck? Someone in the chat called that King Tower activation it was actually a Princess Tower deactivation. So shout out to you in the chat. That's a great little line there as we see EGW's monthly final come to an end. Adriel doing Adriel things, starts things off in game number 1, a pretty dominant win. Actually, it's really interesting. All these games were just massive swings. Game 1, Adriel won really, really quickly. Game 2, EGW put an insane amount of damage in with that Magic Archer against the P.E.K.K.A. And then game number 3, the long pause, the standoff, if you will, at the beginning. And then as quickly as it started, it was out the window for EGW with this Recruits deck. Recruits RG into that push. I just feel like it was a little too aggressive when your deck is that heavy. Your RG is going to get some value, but it creates no value on defense. And your opponent, it's obviously going to be able to defend that, and very healthy troops come back across the board. So Adriel moving on in our lower bracket. As you can see, Kimchi and Sandbox is going to be facing off, and we'll see who's going to go up against Adriel. And then there will be 4, El Moyejas and Mohamed Light hanging out in our upper bracket final. That will be a best of 5. And man, what a way to come into your first monthly final. Great run for El Moyejas. And now he has to go up against the goated one who has played many best of 5s in person, online, and let me tell you, he's won most of them against a guy that has never played a best of 5, at least in CRL. I'm sure he's practiced.
Sure. Practice is a little different. Maybe, I don't know if you're running game time situations, you know, running drills with the clock and the deck picking and stuff like that.
That's a good point.
Right? I mean, I think that's one of the big things when you talk about being a person who gets some shots at CRL and being a true pro is not just how much practice do you put in, how much time do you spend planning, deck picking, things like that.
It's how much practice do you put in where you're putting yourself under game time pressure, where you don't get an extra, hey, give me another minute to pick my deck. No, you got to go now. Now is the time. Get moving. And with every single thing when you transition from amateur to pro, there's always a learning curve of things.
Yes.
NFL players talk about how the game is so much faster. Everyone's so much more athletic. It's so much faster than it is. You start getting into being you're playing higher level basketball, and not only is everyone more athletic, but everyone knows the game so well. They understand,
and they're so
the game
strong
on a deeper level. They're so dang strong. So same thing when you start talking about Clash Royale. Everyone, when you get to this next level, first of all, the level of amount of mistakes you start seeing from your opponents drop dramatically, right? You don't see a lot of trying to get too much out of that mortar, so you miss stopping the battle ram type thing like we saw out of EGW. You don't see that from the top players very much because they've just drilled that correctly. But also the ability to make good deck decisions under pressure, under time. If there's one thing that Mohamed Light really had to develop, it was deck picking skills. And now that he has that, that's when we've seen this final form version of Mo, and that's going to be the big question for these guys. With Kimchi here, he's been really great so far in this. El Molleja's been great so far. When they get into those BO5s and have to make deck 4 and deck 5 picks, if they get to that stage, how do they do that under the time pressure?
Yeah, I mean, notoriously, historically, now we talk about how Mo Light a couple years ago, when he did not win World Finals, he brought the wrong paper up on stage for his deck picking.
Sure.
Right? And that's the best player in the world on the biggest stage. That's the exact same thing here, where obviously there's less time. Practicing that is a really important thing to do. So I really like that you brought that up, and it even gets the best of the best sometimes. And as you said, he has righted those wrongs over the last couple of years, and since then has been even better than before, as we see recruits to recruits in one set to the next.
Yeah, we talk about weekend metas. You see someone do something, and sometimes you think, hey, I should try something similar to that too. So here we go. I don't think this is going to be recruits Royal Giant, though.
I think you could be right. Although with the caster curse out there in the world, it's just going to be now.
Yeah, it probably is.
Not.
So a little slowdown after a few flurries of action. First minute and 40 seconds gone. Sandbox holding on with the lead.
I mean, right now he's looking like he's got a pretty good matchup, considering all the splash that he has, the Tesla, the Evo Tesla. Not a great way to get on top of those piggies when they're evolved, at least at the moment. Still have 2 more cards to show for Kimchi. I'm sure there's a spell in there that'll bring them down to the ground, but just curious to see how he plans on playing through this. As you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Wizard and Dark Prince, really nice cleanup. There's the Evo Tesla right on call. So we'll see what Kimchi's got. He just needs to make sure he doesn't get ahead of himself because he gets impatient.
It's just really frustrating when you have a 6 elixir card, or 7 elixir card, that gets completely erased by the counters and lets them actually counter the opposite direction.
Yeah. No King Tower activation there with some lucky timing for Kimchi. Would have been nice, but just not the case.
Might use the ability here for the Wizard. Decides to hold off. Man, it's just so tanky.
I know, and it does so much damage. The fact it was able to clean all that up. There's the Fireball plus the Cage. Misses one of the Evo Piggies, but Piggy's still going to get on tower.
Oh, boy. They're feasting.
1432. Sandbox has just been lights out since the start of his run. As we mentioned before, Day didn't start off great yesterday, but since then has just been absolutely lights out. 0-2 against Clown, 2-0 over Rockin', Ruby, and Tangy.
So high recruits. This is an opportunity here. Lightning, the last card for Sandbox, just completely disrupts that Ram Rider.
And he says, go ahead, use the hero ability. Waste that elixir. I'll take a little bit of damage and I'll get right back on offense. And here we go.
A little hyper-aggressive to drop 10 elixir at the bridge like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just recognizes he can't get punished. This deck is so heavy that he's going up against, and it just played its win conditions. So the worst thing that can happen is you can start another recruits push that he can literally counter with this wizard. And he's not even using the ability.
It's bonkers.
Yeah, brutal stuff.
And now he can kind of sit back. He can SimCity this and just make sure that no mistakes happen.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have no idea how you win this game. You have the log, you have the E-Spirit, you have the Tesla, all of those things to reset and stun or pull in the Ram Rider, and then all of your troops do splash damage. You also have the lightning if somehow things pile up and you don't have any responses, as we saw Sandbox already do. So just a really tough spot to be in if you are a Kimchi.
Yeah, and your super wizard can do super things.
Seriously, I mean, that hero wizard is just so strong right now. I wonder if it needs a little bit of a balance, but as of right now, it's about the synergy and the play of it. Those two things you really have to lock in, and you know, obviously the pros are going to be good at that. Also, isn't Kimchi's picture sweet?
It's maybe the best of all time. That's
right.
That's pretty great.
Kimchi or Robles?
Yeah, dude, that's a good question. I don't think Kimchi has a whole pop star career though on a second YouTube channel. Yo, if you guys haven't seen it yet, Robles' music videos are epic, absolutely epic. Speaking of epic, you know, going back to that hero wizard, you have the tankiness, you have the ability is like the mini tornado part of it. You know, this is the kind of game where you think that ability might actually be really valuable, right? Take this giant glut of troops and pull them all together. Didn't need it whatsoever. But the tankiness really came to play, plus the damage. Like now with the golden outfit, looks like Homelander, kind of from The Boys. Like it feels like we should just rename him Homelander. He's so powerful, almost unstoppable.
I mean, seriously, I think you and I were both looking at that stop at the bridge after dealing with the recruits, and then I believe there was a skeleton dragon and a mother witch or something like that, and it's like, oh, is he going to support this? Oh, is he going to use the ability? Oh, no, he's going to do nothing. It's going to take out both of them, and it's going to give 0 counter push potential. And, you know, as you also pointed out, I don't know if 10 Elixir at the bridge... Or not even, you don't know. It was just that was a very aggressive push, and it was
crazy.
but there's just no stopping it, right? It was an educated push, but it was still just completely unstoppable, dumping the whole Elixir bar at the bridge, which is not traditionally how Clash Royale is played at the highest level. Usually you don't just go 10 Elixir at the highest tile and then win.
Yeah, I mean, that was and when you go back and look at it, the average Elixir was 4.3 on Kimchi's deck. It was a 14 Elixir cycle to get back around to anything, right? So you look at the weight, the cheapest card there was the Evo Barb Barrel. Everything else is 4 Elixir or more, right?
Yeah.
So you think about that, and now you can kind of go, oh, I get why Sandbox would see, hey, you just spent a little bit. As you mentioned, win condition was out. Sure, full dump and make you play a little bit right now. And it was pretty devastating. So far, recruits not getting anyone to sign up in their last couple of days.
Yeah, yesterday they won over the crowd at the end of the day, but since then have just not been very strong. And it is really interesting to kind of see this player pool getting thinned out as you're looking at the levels of this game. You know, EGW looked so strong yesterday. Today he's running into a higher level of competition. We just had to say goodbye to him, and now we're left with Adriel and Sandbox and Kimchi or Colin and El Mollejas, who are still kind of the unknowns. But right now, Sandbox looking strong in this set. El Mollejas has Mohamed Light ahead of him. Going to be a tough set there. So it is cool to just see, again, the consistency paying off year in, year out. And I bet we're not too far away from being 3 world finalists and a newcomer, but I don't want to take away too much from Kimchi. Great gameplay yesterday, could still stay in it, could still pull off the upset. Now remember, when we look at what Kimchi has done over the weekend, 2-0 over Ta to start, then a 2-1 over Adriel, right? So that's a tough thing to do. Then he runs into Mohamed Light, and now here he is against Sandbox.
And Kimchi may be going drill. And Sandbox looking very happy right now.
Yeah. Man, he has literally been vibing. He's not even there's not even anything in that cup. He's just doing it for the motion of it. It's an empty cup.
That's what you think.
So Miner MK so far.
MK is really annoying when you're playing drill because it's gonna counter it so well most of the time. Even your Evo drills, it's gonna follow it around the board and be a real nuisance. And then it just creates so much nasty pressure the opposite direction.
Yeah, you've just got a massive counter push to deal with. It's basically a -3 trade and then some because the MK is going to, it starts off as a -3 trade and then it quickly goes the other direction as the MK takes very, very little damage and creates a, like you said, a big counter push.
I mean, you look at the options here that Sandbox has for that drill. The Berserker's still pretty nice with it. The Bar Barrel obviously can do some cleanup.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Sandy was, I think, pretty happy about it, is not only does he have the MK to create the big counter push, and as you said, do good work against the Evo drill, he's got all these wonderful responses in the Berserker, in the Ice Spirit, in the Bar Barrel, and exactly what we've been talking about is happening now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better, with what Sandbox had in his hand, there's like no better way to defend that, right?
Yeah.
Now Miner goes to the back, getting tanked 4-2.
Pretty good Hero Knight ability, but it then allows the Mega Knight to get on top of the tower. And Sandy, again, just grinning from ear to ear.
Yeah, and Sandbox knows better than anybody that every single one of these months matters, right? He has made it. He has skated his way into World Finals, and he has missed by a hair for World Finals. And like like I said, there's nobody who is aware of the stakes being prevalent, being relevant in every single month more than he is.
Man, and he just knows this matchup so well. He is playing it so well, creating so much pressure, pulls the Evo Snowball out on defense. More Miner Chip comes in. The Archer Queen is so frustrating to deal with. You don't have a way to take it off the board easily other than your Knight, but you need your Knight to tank for your Goblin drill. And just right now, Sandy just pitching a perfect game.
Yeah, it's not a complicated math problem for him right now.
Yeah, and especially, you know, the very good pick on the Archer Queen. You know, Lightning is showing up a decent amount. Actually, that's pretty good damage with that drill that just came in.
Well, he cycled the Evo MK in the back, right?
Yeah.
And the moment he cycled the Evo MK in the back, Kimchi saw the opening here, and you see the King Tower activation, a pretty easy choice.
Yeah, that's a good call, man. I don't really love that cycled in the back. There's no reason to do it. I think you can cycle things like your AQ or your Berserker in the back, Ice Spirits. You can even put cannons on the board. But every time that MK has come out to defend a drill, it's just created an annoying position for Kimchi to be in. And now Sandbox opting to switch lanes because going in the same lane with this poison is actually going to be better for him.
All right, here we go. Miner goes to the back, stretching the field a little bit, but of course that King Tower activation. That's the thing too about just sending the MK the way that he sent it, was the King Tower activation was super easy for Kimchi to do.
Double Archer Queen, first ability goes off, second one comes down, second ability coming in.
You really want that King Tower activation to be an at what cost activation, right? And that's, and not having that be the case here might be, if Kimchi wins this game, I think it's that cycled MK on the right is going to be the story of this one.
And MK cycled here at the bridge, holding that Knight up high, and then a regular drill, an Evo drill coming in with the poison. Miner to the back. You would think a poison comes out as well. It's not going to be enough.
Not going to be enough.
Wow.
He needs to get Miner on the front right now. Not going to do it. And I'm telling you, when we go back and tell the story of this game, it's cycling Evo MK to that right-hand side when your opponent has Evo Drill. I think it was Evo Drill, too. The Archer Queen is an option that can go that. There's a lot of things that can go that direction. that one was kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, you're so right. There's so many better things to have had. Literally anything else you could have cycled. I mean, even if you just play your cannon right next to your lower princess tower, and let's say it does somehow. I mean, I don't think Kimchi poisons that, but let's say for some reason Kimchi does poison that. Now you've created an opening for your archer queen. Like, there's just so many different ways to have gone that route. I just think Sandbox got a little overconfident in what a great spot he was in, and then started to take that drill damage. We talk about that drill damage. It really becomes very difficult to keep up with in triple elixir. And you kind of understand why Sandbox did cycle that MK, because he just defended a drill well, so he knew drill wasn't in cycle. He thought maybe he could build this push, but I think two things. You don't cycle that MK. You don't need to. It's your Evo MK. Like you said, Rich, you're giving away that King Tower activation. The other part of it is maybe just recognize earlier on, if you're playing Miner Poison in the same lane, but you have MK to kind of set the line and create a tank for your Miner, maybe then if you're going to switch at the end, you should have switched sooner. Otherwise, I think that you just don't cycle that MK, and you're just in a way better spot for the rest of that game.
Yeah, I mean, and you think about just the impacts, both, of course, you're up against a faster cycle deck that's going to get that drill back pretty quickly. So that drill, even if drill's not in hand right that second, drill's coming down the pipe. You cycle the MK, and then they don't have to worry about that defending the drill. But then, you look at the later impact. Your damage in this deck is Miner and Poison. That's what your damage is, or you break through to a second level. Yeah. And now giving away an easy kit. Like, if you're going to do that, you have to back up that MK and go hard on that right-hand side and make them make choices, because he didn't force any choices there either, which then meant easy King Tower activation, and now your Miner just became 72% less effective.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't think there's much more to say than just, getting a little ahead of yourself, feeling a little overconfident, understanding the macro matchup, and then throwing it out the window because you're just riding high. So I just think Sandy needs to just come back to earth a little bit, which a loss will do. Like we said, he's been perfect, basically. I mean, I think 100% until now after he started 0-2 in this tournament. So, yeah, just a bit of a misstep, only loses by a couple hundred HP. So all those things come into play. Shouldn't have cycled the MK, should have went same lane earlier, control the board a little bit more with Archer Queens and Cannons, try to bait out those poisons, all these things. So good game for Kimchi, though. We're going to go to game number 3.
Great recognition.
Again, yeah. And this is a game number 3, an elimination game. Sandy could be eliminated. Kimchi could continue this Cinderella story.
I mean, that's the big thing, right? Is, when you talk about underdog versus favorite in matchups, I was just commentating in the Ultimate Frisbee Association on Friday night, one of the bottom 3 teams in the league versus one of the top 3 teams in the league. And the coach of the bottom 3 team said that he told his players that, well, watch the broadcast, because if it looks like Atlanta is having trouble, they're going to start saying what's wrong with Atlanta and not what has Houston done right. And it's the same thing here, right? Like, obviously Sandbox opened the door, but what did Kimchi do right here? Well, Kimchi did a great job of really recognizing the situation when it happened, pressuring heavy, making sure that Sandbox maybe didn't feel comfortable backing up that MK, that making Sandbox make a choice. Do I double down on this MK push on the right, or do I defend here in a less than ideal fashion? Gave up tons of damage, and then because he couldn't support the MK, put something behind it, there was no cost to the King Tower activation. So Kimchi doing a great job of recognizing the opportunity and putting the screws to the more experienced player.
All right, here we go. Players are finally ready, feeling the pressure here in elimination game 3. And Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A comes out, which we saw very briefly yesterday, I believe in only one game.
I see very briefly at all.
Yeah, just I believe one time.
The ability, the hero ability is so weirdly situational, right? You see there, nearly charging the whole thing up, but then there's zappies, so there's no point in using that ability. And I think that's one of the reasons why the hero MK we don't see very often is because almost every other hero... Oh, Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A, yeah, Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A is because every other hero card pretty much, you really dictate when the ability is usable, whereas that one, you hope that your opponent gives you a chance to use the ability.
Yeah, did they make a mistake defensively? So now this one sliver of HP can turn into a third of a bar, and now I can just get 2 massive hits on tower. Wow, that mini P.E.K.K.A almost got pushed on top of the Princess Tower, which would have just been such an unfortunate interaction.
Yeah. And so that's one of the situations, right? Like, could that have been a place where Kimchi pops the ability and it stays alive just long enough to get one annoying hit or to force out a response?
Yeah. So Evo Ghost coming out. Really just fallen pretty quickly out of the meta over the last couple seasons.
Yeah, no gem there. It's a regular Ghost, but he still shows that he could have been Evo if you cared enough to let him have it.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see a card that was basically only used as an evolution for a really long time go back to its regular form.
Yeah, it's true. I haven't spent much time thinking about that. But now I'm thinking about it all the time.
Now it's the only thing I'm going to think about. Wow! And a bit of lag, but the Hog and the MK are connecting to bring that tower down to 2150.
And a little technical difficulties here. Yeah, I know production's working on cleaning this one up. We were all a little worried about that giant skeleton connecting, then it teleported away.
And the Evo Lumberjack, another Evo that I've talked about a good amount over this week in the Creators Tournament and in CRL, is just, it's not that much of a problem. It doesn't get on tower that often at the highest level, but it's just something you really got to be very wary of and a bit scared of. And oh my goodness, Sandbox with the complete overwhelm in the right-hand lane with that same combo of Giant Skeleton plus Evo Battle Ram that is so difficult to stop.
And Kimchi's CRL journey will end here for now as he falls after making a valiant effort in this best of 3, battling back in game number 2 when Sandbox opened the door, but in the end, Sandbox too much for him. And now we have our top 4 as Sandbox will move into the lower bracket semifinal.
Yeah, just really tough there. Great recognition by Sandy. You know, MK gets cycled in the back on the left-hand side. He goes Giant Skeleton with the Royal Ghost in front. Evo Battle Ram behind. Those guards are really difficult. The mini P.E.K.K.A was out of cycle, so you think, okay, guards plus Evo Furnace is going to be enough to defend, but the problem is the guards need to avoid the Royal Ghost, get on the Giant Skeleton, and avoid the Evo Battle Ram because of the charge. So there's so many layers to that offense that you have to be very careful in defending because you don't have that mini P.E.K.K.A or Mega Knight in cycles. So maybe just losing track of the best ways to defend, losing track of your opponent's evolution and where it's at. And Sandbox, once again, yes, he drops a game, but stays perfect in sets and just takes him out in one massive blow.
And really, this should have been a 2-0. Like, this really should have been a clean win in game number 2. Sandbox made one mistake and gave Kimchi a little bit of light to stay alive in this one. And then game 3 just absolutely shut the door on him. No real opening at all. And Sandbox now, in a weekend where we started with so many players who were newcomers, we now get to our final 4, and we have 3 multiple-time world finalists. And Elmo Hayas, who he's gonna have to find a way to beat, at minimum, 2 of them.
Yeah, and he's got to start with Mohamed Light. We're going to go to our lower bracket first. And yeah, these decks still on screen if you guys want to use the QR codes at the bottom, respectively 1, 2, and 3 on the left, 1, 2, and 3 on the right. You guys, if you want to run any of those that you saw that you like, that is the best way to do it. Shout out to Production and Stats Royale for being able to make that happen. Adriel and Sandbox is where we're going to go next. Probably going to give Sandy just a moment to take a breath. We all know how patient you guys are in the chat. And then, yes, Elmo Yejas against Mohamed Light. And these are all best of 5s from here on out. So in case you guys have not seen a best of 5 before in CRL in dual mode, it's just the exact same as a best of 3 with 2 more games, which means that deck pool has to be even deeper. Your analyst, your coach has to be incredibly on top of it when talking about this deck picking. Basically, you know, it's a regular best of 3 in the beginning, but the idea is that when you get into those games 4 and 5, you do not want to put your player in worse than a 40-60 matchup. If you give your player a 40-60 in game 4 or something like that, it's a bit understandable. But obviously, for the most part, you want to keep that as close to 50-50 as possible. And that is so much more difficult to do in games 4 and 5.
And it becomes really interesting, right? When you start thinking about how do I game plan for a 5? Do I really put heavy weight in those first 3 games? How much am I trying to push things back a little bit? Looks like this is our final best of 3 match. We're actually going to be doing just the lower bracket and upper bracket finals as our best of 5.
Oh, right. So we're not in the lower bracket finals yet. I'm so sorry.
We're lower bracket semifinals.
Getting a little excited. This is the semifinals.
Sure. They're so fun, though.
Yes. But we will be getting 2 best of 5s after this next matchup, as Sandbox and Adriel are getting ready to go in our lower bracket semis. And this is a fun match, right? These guys, I'd love to actually take back. I mean, you have a better memory than I do in terms of historical World Finals appearances and people going up against each other. I'm curious how many times Sandy and Adriel have played against each other over the years. You know, it's one of those things that I'm sure there's a bit of history there. I think
they were both at World Finals last year.
Yes, Sandbox eliminated Adriel last year. I knew that there was something. In the lower bracket quarterfinals, Sandbox actually 2-0'd Adriel, and obviously in a very different meta. Sandy played a Mortar deck with Boss Bandit, and he also played Royal Giant in game number 2. So Adriel may be looking for a little bit of revenge from Atlanta.
Adriel, a 2-time world finalist in 23 and 25. And Sandbox in our early world finals in 21 and 22, and then had a few years where he just barely missed it, and then came back and got top 4 at our 2025 World Finals in Atlanta, which was such a fun time. I mean, the probably the best crowd we've had in the history of CRL World Finals. It was really something special, and I know those players really appreciated the quality of Clash Royale League fan who made it out to watch that epic event.
Oh yeah, the crowd there was just electric. Big shout out to Atlanta and DreamHack and the wonderful crowd that we saw there.
So a little hog both ways. And might be getting into a full mirror match here, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty much like it, and both of these guys great hog players. Neither of them known as being the best hog players out in the world, but obviously very good.
So the Tesla battle is going to be fascinating.
Oh, wow, the MK.
Okay. Okay, MK.
Tesla to snipe Tesla. MK for MK.
So yeah, managing your Teslas, using your cycle cards effectively, not just in a cycle capacity.
And Sandbox knew that was going to come in, has the lightning ready to go.
I think that's going to be the big factor, right? This is going to come down to either A, does someone make a mistake in that middle of the board, that middle third battle, or does someone get ahead early on spells and then not let the other guy catch up?
Yeah, it's always so hard to say in these true mirror matchups, you know, what the deciding factor is going to be. We see an aggressive push here, nice King Tower activation from Sandy, high Evo Tesla, and a clean defense.
Adriel up, though, 29-12 to 25-85 on that right-hand side. Do we start getting some... Go ahead.
I was going to say it's always fascinating to see pre-cycled or early cycled buildings when you know you're going up against Hog.
I'm really curious if we start getting some opportunistic Magic Archer abilities later in the game for the damage, right? You saw on the left-hand side, Adriel had a Magic Archer walking towards some skeletons, and he already has that King Tower activated on Sandbox's side, so do you start trying to activate that ability a bit more for the Princess damage? How tight is this game going to be?
And a nice lightning comes in for Adriel as he widens the gap ahead by just under 600. And a great Skelly surround.
And Sandbox will take that lightning every time. Right? Very, very, very happy to get that damage.
Hog's out in either direction. Tesla's out in either direction.
So right now their cycles feel like they're pretty similar too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've both done a really good job of kind of having the cycles exactly where they need, knowing that the Lightning has to be there offensively and defensively and not getting ahead of themselves with that. Obviously, Tesla's being pre-cycled to help with MK pushes, but then still having a way to deal with the Hog. That's a really nice ability from Adriel. Maybe a Skelly surround. There we go. Not quite a perfect surround.
And he really would have loved to get just an extra tile there and make that connection on the left-hand tower.
I wonder if we're going to see a lightning. Pre-lightning misses. Look, Adriel, I like that pre-lightning looking for the Tesla with the Magic Archer. I like even more that Sandbox knew that that was going to come in and late plays the Tesla off to the side.
Well, this is when you have two world finalists playing.
Yeah, it's just an amazing the thought process that goes into these mirror matchups with players this good.
Final 30 seconds. Adriel, comfortable lead here. Is Sandbox going to try to get creative and find that last bit of damage? Lightning gets good value.
Dead even, 22.99 on both right-hand towers, but I believe Adriel has the Lightning back in cycle before Sandy. I think Sandy should be able to get it out still, though. Tesla comes down. Lightning should come in with the log, though. The log's out in the wrong direction. Oh, my goodness. Is this true? 2 days in a row? It's unbelievable. 2 days in a row. We get a dead even draw, and I am so here for it.
What is happening? What is this life that we're living?
Bro.
Unbelievable.
The truest of mirror matchups. Look at even Adriel finds a little bit of a kick out of it. The truest of mirror matchups in CRL. Dead even in cards, dead even in damage. The ending exactly the same with logs and lightnings going out. Was Adriel's log, though, did it not connect at the end?
It must have been too late. Yeah, I wonder if we can get that
seconds.
replay back.
Yeah, we're at 10 seconds, 22.99. Lightning goes in for Sandy, or excuse me, against Sandy, and he sends in the Hog, and Adriel's log does not connect. It's like 3 tiles away because he had to get the Tesla out first, up high. What a great match. What a great freaking match.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the chances of that happening once in a season on Broadcaster Solo, twice in a weekend is bonkers. So here we go. They're gonna go ahead and run it back and try to figure out, you know, what's the magic sauce to not end up with a draw one more time.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see Adriel even, like I said, just this big smile there out of him. And just to let you guys know, since we did just have this happen yesterday, just a clarification on the rules, that game is as if it never happened. So they can play any of those cards, either one of them. They don't have to run back the matchup. But as you can see here, Rich, 5 seconds remaining. Lightning goes out against Sandbox, and then Sandbox sends his own Lightning in. Adriel trying to block, and then the log just shy of the tower.
And he says wow too. Even Sandy says wow. I'm saying wow. He's saying wow. You know, I'm trying to remember back to the old teams rules before we had the sudden death tower, like the end of game tower diminishing. Right, we were talking about this during the Creator Tournament the other day, where we used to have a lowest single tower rule in CRL because this thing where the towers die at the end didn't exist then. And I think the rule included that if 2 towers were tied, you would go to the next tower. So in old CRL, where we didn't have this cool thing built in, this would have been a win for Adriel. But in modern CRL, with the way that the system is built, those 2 towers are tied, we have a draw.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I think I like that change because the lowest single tower, that's just not really what Clash Royale is about when you have a draw on the other side. You know,
Sure.
if you're able to like throw a log down the other lane and they're both completely healthy or something like that, that would be just not what we want to see. So I do like the adjustment, even though it is absolutely insane to see it 2 days back to back, 4 different competitors, 4 different win conditions, or
Yeah.
at least, you know, 4 different decks, or I guess in here they're the exact same decks, but it's just cool to see how different the route can be to get to a draw once again.
Here we go. Deja vu all over again. Game 1. Now here's the mind game part: is do you play the same deck back or you switch it up? Sandy switching it up.
Yeah, both of them changing things up. So 0 games played so far in this lower bracket semi, in case that seems wrong to you. And immediately the aggressive graveyard. And a lot spent to defend, gonna give good poison value and 0 counter push. And maybe a small counter push.
Yeah, Adriel wanted to. Oh, yes. Sandbox is going to make him play on this one. A little bit of tankage out of it. Bar Barrel comes up. Spears in the back. And Sandy will end up ahead.
Yeah, the Spears are going to be really interesting in this matchup. They're going to be able to get a lot of value defending those graveyards if they're able to be dropped low enough. You got to bait out the poison, and then you have the Bar Barrel and the Ice Spirit to help clean up as well, and the Demolisher. So if you can use the Spears and the Demolisher, one of them is going to draw the attention of the poison. The other one should be able to get some good value. Probably, ideally, Spears lower and Goblin Demolisher higher, so it doesn't have the potential of walking through that poison.
And that's the big thing for those of you watching at home, right? Is you got to spread out that defense to deal with those spells.
And not a mirror match, but looking close.
Yeah, these guys like playing the same game. Here we go. Double Elixir about to start flowing. And both of them playing pretty lightweight graveyard decks so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so much more aggressive graveyard and single elixir is just because it's not quite the same send as it used to be in terms of how costly it was. And here we go. Poison up high because the Demolisher was there, so you go Spears down low. And Spear Goblin's still one of the absolute best defensive cards in the game when dealing with a deck that cannot get to them. We see that a lot with, you know, RG against Spear Goblins. A lot of times RG has like a large spell that you don't want to spell on them, or you have Lightning, and then you usually have Bar Barrel there, so you're not able to get on top. And somehow that Musketeer snipes the Demolisher, even though the Knight was dropped pretty quickly.
Evo Musk is such a fascinating call in this situation. Right, Musketeer is not super duper popular overall, and then to take an Evo slot and put it on the Musketeer.
Yeah, I know. Evo Musketeer is such a fascinating card. It's still one of the Evos that I have the hardest time tracking. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I understand how the cycles work. I understand how many times it has to be played. But for some reason, it's just a harder card for me to track than other Evos.
Well, it's also an evolution where it's not typically a game-changing evolution, right? Usually the result of it is going to be, hey, maybe it wipes something out that you have in the backfield. But you're not thinking about it in the same way as other Evos create the same level of offensive pressure.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, sniping a building or sniping a support card that you know your opponent is relying on is really what you're going for. But right now, Sandy just having a really hard time not, oh, wow, and that Bar Barrel is going to bait out the Evo Musketeer, which you never want to do. And the Demolisher comes in. Maybe a high Knight here. And yes, the high Knight, but it doesn't actually get the shots from the Musketeer. Great placement there from Adriel to make sure that Musketeer has to step all the way up, doesn't get those buffed up shots.
Final 45, huge lead for Adriel. Graveyard Poison looking to see if he can finish this off here. Some skeleton stabs come in, that's it.
Wow. And with a very interesting start to this set, It's really, really impressive to see how this has gone. Both these guys just playing nails right now. Adriel, though, just playing better in that game throughout, better responses. Yeah, Evo Musk is interesting. You know, it is a good card to create space, but just not really in this matchup specifically. You're not looking to take out a building. You're not really looking to snipe off a unit off the board. Yes, it did get a good snipe in there on, I think it was the Demolisher behind the Knight. But again, when you're talking about ways for, you know, Adriel to clean this up, he's got poison, he's got spears, he's got barrel, he's got ice spirit. Evo Musk is just not going to be able to do that.
Oh, another thing too is when you think about Graveyard Musketeer, historically you think about it, it's kind of similarly to how you think about Graveyard Cannon Cart, which is they can tank back and forth for each other. And we didn't see a situation where it ever came to fruition where the Graveyard was tanking for the Musketeer. In fact, the Musketeer was pretty much uninvolved in the offensive side of the board at all. And at that point, now your Musketeer just becomes spell fodder near your own Princess Tower, as opposed to being part of the pressure that you put the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Sandy needed to go opposite lane in that matchup. I'm not sure exactly what it was. It was just really tough. You know, you talk about all the ways. I mean, we saw it almost kind of laid out for us in the very, very beginning when we saw Adriel go in with a hyper-aggressive Graveyard. And, you know, there was a Knight, a Musketeer, a Bar Barrel, and maybe even Skellies dropped on top of it as well. I can't remember if they were there or not. And it all was just taken out by that one poison. So, you know, if you know that that's the case that you're in, maybe start splitting your Skeleton Dragons in the back, see if you can get Bar Barrel plus Graveyards out opposite lane, maybe just to break up your opponent's pushes a little bit.
So both guys back in the lab. And those of you who are looking at Stats Royale to track along with the gameplay, it does mark game number 2 here as a dual forfeit, as it shows the icon that they both repeated cards. Of course, there are no repeated cards because we're wiping game 1, the draw, completely clean. So don't be confused by what you see on Stats Royale if you're following along. They are both in it, and game number 1 technically was an Adriel win.
Yeah, and as I can see a couple people in the chat talking about, it was Samuel Basoto and Ta that had a game draw yesterday as well. So if you want to go back and look at that, you're more than welcome to on our day 1 broadcast that you can catch on VOD. And here we go. Game number 2 coming your way in just a little bit. Adriel finally up 1, and yeah, like you said, if you're following along on Stats Royale, not given the full story there.
It's so interesting that we have the full mirror match in game 1 and then a near mirror in game 2. I wonder what it is where these two guys are just kind of so in lockstep on how they're viewing the progression of this match.
Someone asking, why is it a draw? Can someone explain? It was because the lowest tower from either player was the exact same HP. And yeah, that's why. And again, just Berserker meets Berserker. I feel like maybe their coach is playing a prank on them.
Yeah, this is kind of wild. Like unprecedented, really, the way that this best of 3 has gone down.
Yeah. And Monk to meet Magic Archer. And will have to use the ability if he doesn't want to take the damage, and takes a couple shots just to clarify, and gives a couple shots as well. Nice King Tower activation there.
And Fisherman pulls the training dummy, the Scarecrow, out of the way. Magic Archer just hangs out there in the back.
And Hog coming in. Nice fireball there, but Hog should get a hit, and it does. You can see the tilt of the head there. Gets 2 hits. Adriel obviously not happy about that.
Yeah, King Tower saving Adriel from a few more hits in that one. Halfway through the first opening 3 minutes, and this one so far has been nearly all Sandy, the damage you see on his tower. Just reflection damage from the Monk.
And this Furnace going to get fireballed, which is good information for Adriel to have.
Is this the creepiest of the tower skins in the entire game? Adriel's rocking here?
Yeah. I'll give it that.
And yet, keep an eye on that one, right? Adriel playing Fireball. Now, two different things that make the Magic Archer really a challenge for Sandbox as we go forward, right? The Magic Archers up high can start running into some monks for the reflection damage that we already saw. And the Magic Archers down low, and there you go. See, nice reflection, going to force him to use the ability. And the Magic Archers, if he plays them low behind his towers, that's his Fireball fodder.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that we're not seeing Adriel be a little bit more precious and protective of his units strolling down the lane to give that Magic Archer damage. You know, it's always been a little bit of a will they, won't they conversation, but as of late, it's been much more of a they will, and I need to stop it. Now it's just about the fact of will they, won't they hit the ability, but especially at the highest level, you know, you always talk about pros getting like 100 or 200 damage, and you hear them go, oh, that's a lot of damage. Well, at the highest level, it really is. And to give that up time and time again is a little bit surprising.
And King Tower activation maybe incoming. No, the Magic Archer ability does not hit the Monk and reflect. And now we get the Royal Giant on the right-hand side. Evo MK going to work there, but the Fisherman pulls it away. No problem as that Berserker full of damage.
And the Fish Boy pulls a little Benedict Arnold there, pulls the MK on top of the tower, and yeah, this is just a tough spot to be in. Evo, oh wow, this might be a good overwhelm though on the left-hand side. Tesla's, I imagine, is going to come out.
Yeah, but not enough elixir for it. Tesla's super late, so now Evo Tesla goes and pulls the distraction, but after a lot of damage already been done.
Yeah, and I really like that E was behind because you know it's going to stun whatever defensive troop comes out. And, you know, Sandy, once again, you know, plays that Evo MK on the RG, but Adriel able to get back around to the RG. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you're going to hold it for so long is when you know you're going up against Evo MK, you can't just give away that free damage. And a very close game we have now.
I think Adriel was hoping that Log would knock the Hog Rider into his Fisherman from the opposite lane. Didn't happen. And he played the E-Wiz to mitigate the damage. Still took one, and then, of course, Magic Archer damage. So now 797 bottom right-hand tower, 1225 top left-hand tower. Sandbox knows where Adriel's trying to go. Adriel might put a little pressure on the right-hand side, and he does.
And Berserker does connect, but obviously not going to be for a lot of damage. Evo Furnace locked in. Fire Spirit will jump on the Hog, and Sandbox evening things up to 1-1 after 3 games, 2 on paper.
And this got closer than you think here, Andrew. Look at that, down to 234.
Yeah.
There's one of those moments where, like, that could have been, we could have seen a sneaky RG pull off one last shot, didn't quite retarget fast enough. And that could have been a devastating loss for Sandbox. Instead, we're going to game number 3. And as we look at the matchups here between these two decks, it has been heavily in favor of the RG player.
Yeah, which is, you know, it's a little surprising just because when you look at what the responses are for Sandbox, you have the Log, you have the E-Spirit, you have the Tesla, you have the Evo MK. All these things are a really, really great way to distract and push back that Royal Giant, excuse me. The Hog getting through, though, is also tough. When you look at the E-Wiz, the Berserker, the Fish Boy, the Log, there's a lot of ways. Oh, the Monk as well. There's just so many ways to stop and stun and pull and, you know, activate King, all those things. So both these guys having to kind of play uphill through the responses their opponent has. And, you know, like you said, Rich, this game was actually a lot closer than it felt like it was going to be.
Well, the Evo MK being the big difference. I mean, the previous 3 decks that you saw, similar matches, similar, not the same, and none of those are playing with the Evo Mega Knight, which, you know, we've talked about that before, how effective that can be in just not letting that Royal Giant do what it wants to do, especially the Evo Royal Giant. So, does change the matchup math pretty significantly with that Evo MK, but we're absolutely right. This one was one of those ones that could have slipped away from Sandy. Instead, we're going to game number 3 as he's able to put enough pressure and hold on just that little sliver to give us our 4th game, actually, of this matchup.
Adriel probably really wishing that that Fisherman did not pull the Mega Knight on top of his tower in the bottom right-hand side earlier in that game. Just too much damage coming in for free, and ends up being probably the deciding factor there with only 234 HP as the difference. Yeah, great game there by both these guys. We're going to hop into game number 3. One of them will go home. One of them will move on and play the loser of El Moyahas and Mohamed Light, which, again, tall order there for El Moyahas to stay alive, but could happen. He has been really, really great throughout the weekend. Adriel and Sandy, a bit of a revenge match. Adriel, if he can, Sandbox being the person that sent him home in 2025 in that lower bracket course. So, love the 2 world finalists duke it out here in our first monthly final.
And you know, when you think about the 2 guys we have in front of us in Sandy and Adriel, they've both been through so many interesting ups and downs with their Clash Royale career. Sandbox, you know, one of the guys who looked like he was like going to be a kind of a breakout star in 21-22, missed 23, missed 24. And then finally made it back again in 25, when a lot of people had written him off as being a top Worlds player. And then Adriel, who has, you know, had some unfortunate misses throughout the years, and someone that, you know, you go back to 2024. 2024, we only had 8 players at World Finals. We had our smallest World Finals that year. And I need to go back and remember what the full ranking was for CRL in 2024. Let me go ahead and see if I can actually bring
in terms of where people ended up.
And where they ended up right
finals.
like by not qualifying for World Finals by like just a hair, you know, people who would have qualified in a 12-person or 16-person season, but there are a lot of players who kind of missed out on that smaller World Finals. So these are both guys who know what it takes to get there and know how easily it can slip away.
Yeah, and, you know, Adriel making World Finals a couple times. He's basically landed in 6th place time and time again. And then when you look at Sandbox, this last year having his best run at World Finals, getting to 4th place, where previously he'd been in 6th and in 12th place in 2022 and 2021, respectively. So while Adriel has had, I guess, more finishes, a little bit higher, Sandy has the highest finish at 4.
And, you know, I'm back looking at 2024 and looking at the leaderboard situation. And you had multiple monthly finalists who won, right? Mohammed, Tal, Lucas, Pedro, and Greco. That was 6 of the 8 spots. Sub was the points qualifier. We had 1 Chinese player, and guess who was the person right behind Sub on points?
Adriel. Sandbox.
Adriel. It was Adriel, and they were tied on points. It came to a secondary tiebreaker after being tied on points. So you talk about people who know that margin being thin. There's no thinner margin than missing based on points and having to go to a secondary tiebreaker.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane. Here we go. Game number 3. 1 moves on, 1 goes home. They'll be playing in the best of 5 in the lower bracket finals, and hopefully for them, a best of 5 in the grand finals. But we've got a little bit of work to go before we get there, as we are in the final game between Sandbox and Adriel. Last time these guys met in World Finals, Sandbox 2-0'd Adriel. Already not the story here.
Giant Skeleton cycled in the back for Sandy. And opportunistic Magic Archer.
We'll get a shot on tower there with the triple shot.
You know, when you're playing Magic Archer, that's always one of the really hard calls to make. And more often than not, if you try to get what we just saw out of, and there's an easy King Tower activation, more often than not, when you're the Magic Archer player and you try to get that early lineup and take advantage of just a few cheap points early, you end up actually paying for it in the long run. You spent 4 elixir to get just a little bit of tower damage, and you see here, you know, there's about 400 damage on Sandy's tower, but he also has the King Tower activation because the Hog came out, and, you know, I don't know if Adriel gets much of an advantage for having stacked up those few hits.
Yeah, I mean, I guess only time will tell here, as he's about to have to deal with his very first drill. Bomb, tower, plus guards. Still going to allow a Goblin to get a couple hits in, which is nice for Sandbox. 28-52 to 26-57. And a Hog goes in response.
And he'll get some nice damage out of this one as the Evo Snowball cleans thing up. And that's, you talk about playing Hog against Tornado. This is where you have to start layering your attacks, right? Because NATO is just going to be, you have so much HP to give on that